Hi, Shira.
Hey Mia, just getting the audio together.
Sure, yeah.
All right, how's it going?
Good. Been busy. We have a big housing conference where my agency's hosting this week, so I feel like I'm a little behind on every email, but yeah, hopefully I haven't missed anything big.
Which means you're right on time for everybody else.
Yeah, it's just been one of those logistic things that happens every time and surprises everybody. Thank you for getting this into a document. Yeah, I'll have to sort of placeholder in my mind how to fix all the citations. I think I'll have to bring it down into Word and have a like no more edits final proofreading thing. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, thank you. It looks good. And I think it's really helpful for people to see like what it looks like and where we're just don't have content.
yeah, no worries. And I think we do have more than this. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
all of the pieces from the uh from what was sent to the PUC, and like different people are assigned different parts of those. But
Mhm.
putting it together, I thought we're in relatively good shape.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey Matt.
Hey, how are you? I'll be on camera shortly. Sorry, just cleaning up here.
No worries at all. Take your time.
I have not heard about anybody not attending, I don't think.
Mhm. I was have you been looped back in, or I was out of the loop about the replacement for Jen. So do you know if
I don't think the PUC has moved on that at all. I think
okay.
Jeff sent them some suggestions, and I don't know what their timeline for doing. We can ask Dominic if he's heard anything. I do have on my list that John is a no for today, but that's the only person who has told me that they will not be attending. So hopefully that's it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to check if the meeting minutes are back up now. I think Dominic said he took care of it, but
Mhm.
okay.
Hey
Sure.
Pike.
I hope your surgery was successful and all is good.
It was. I'm feeling better and better by the day. Thanks so
Great.
much.
Sure.
Okay, meeting minutes are up now. Ashir, you haven't heard any emails from anyone not being able to. I'm just surprised that there's only three of us.
It just turned 12:30, and yeah,
Okay.
some more people are starting
Yeah,
to
I
come
know it's
in.
not super late. It was like, I would have expected a few more people and just making sure. But yeah, I am seeing a few more trickle in.
Hey Emily.
Hi, Shira. Welcome back.
Thanks so much. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Okay, I'm seeing five. And we need our six. Is that still? No, we need five now because of Jen. So um looks like Dominic joined us. So I'll give us another sec, but we do have quorum.
And we do still have people coming in.
Yeah.
Jeff just came in.
Great. No, we'll give it another sec, but never 100% sure we're definitely going to make quorum until I see everybody. So okay.
Hello.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello.
See, she's joined. Okay. It's a decent number of our group. Okay, well then I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'll start by going over our agenda as usual. One thing I wanted to flag is that next week, I'll say this again at the end, but next week we have another EAG full group meeting. That's because we moved the one that was on the week of Thanksgiving, assuming that we would have, pretty significant quorum challenges. So we're still doing 2 this month, but they are back-to-back weeks. And that means I guess we haven't talked about it, but I had assumed that would mean that we probably aren't doing the report writing group on the 20th, but I guess we can confirm at the end of this meeting if we think there's sort of an urgent need to try to get that group together. I know that's a lot of EAG activity in a pretty short amount of time, but so I just want to flag that. If you know you aren't going to be available on the 18th, please let me and Ashira know as soon as possible to make sure that we aren't going to have quorum challenges. Okay, thanks everybody. And then so I will go through the agenda. We're going to review and approve the prior meeting minutes, tag updates, PUC updates. We're going to have a discussion about the public meeting and the transcript that was available. And I'm sorry to be clear, that is the public meeting on, I believe, October 29th or 30th that the PUC held as a public meeting. So we'll have discussions about that, and we'll take public comment. We're going to review and hopefully approve the Vermonters of Color section and the renters section, which I think are pretty far along. We'll kind of get into sort of other sections that we feel are available, potentially including the limitation section. But I think the goal of this, since we have some content to start to approve, is to hopefully, we won't be making a final approval of the report, but sort of tentatively approving sections that we think are done or done with very minor changes, and sort of put those to bed and have a chance to review one more final time in the report. But reduce as much tinkering as possible with report sections that we feel are done, so we can move on to the things that aren't done. So it won't be the final opportunity for anybody to weigh in, but I'm hoping that we can get group consensus on things that are substantively done. So we'll see how that goes. And then we should have some time in the agenda, so I think we could review sections that are available. There's also an option to break off into individual working groups, which I know the TAG has done. I think we'll just have to see how it goes and the appetite for sort of reviewing content we have and identifying issues that we think need to be addressed. And then, as always, Ashir will give us our next steps and assignments, and then we'll call it to a close. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay, I'm hearing none, so I will move on to the next agenda item, which is review and approving the last meeting minutes from October 29th. Those are on the PUC website, but they were not until I think midway through this morning, because there was a technical issue uploading them. So I just wanted to check if everyone had a chance to look at them. We could always approve them next time if we didn't have enough time to review them when they were posted. Does anyone need more time to review them? Have any questions about the agenda?
I did not review them, but given that the meetings are now recorded, I don't think I need to review them, and probably won't.
Okay. Anybody else?
I haven't had a chance to review them, but I concur with Pike on that. Yeah.
Well, I think it would be fine, given the short time span, to just approve them next week when we meet again, review meeting minutes for both. And maybe we can just try to make an effort to take a quick look at both of them. But yeah, I know this one was up pretty late. So let's table this for now, and we'll vote to review and approve these next time. Okay? It should be really quick. Okay, if there are no objections to that, I am going to hand it off to Emily or Matt or both for updates from what the TAG has been doing.
Thanks, Mia. Matt might have to fill in some of the blanks because there were quite a few fuel-related topics at the TAG that Matt is more steeped in than I am. The TAG voted in the last meeting on moving a memo forward on commenting on the draft rule. And we mainly ended up commenting on the TRM updating process, so updating the TRM and what that process looks like, and adding that the commission should basically align that with the EEU process for updating TRMs. So that was moved forward to the PUC. And then there was a discussion and a vote on crop-based biofuel land use change options. So option 1 was to exclude this, and then option 2 was to include. And there was more votes for option 1, and I'll let Matt add on to that. And then we also had a discussion about wood fuel emission factors led from the Agency of Natural Resources. And we had a status update on the advanced wood heat discussion, which is continuing during the next TAG meeting. And then we also had another question for TAG consideration regarding upstream avoided emission impacts. I can let Matt speak on that one as well. And those were all our main topics, and I'll hand it over to Matt.
Oh, I wish, Emily, that I could provide greater clarity. I was in and out of that meeting. I was traveling
Got
with
it.
bad connection. But I should have reviewed the minutes. That's my bad.
No worries. I can give a quick, like, general for that last one that I kind of skipped over, the upstream avoided emission impacts for biofuels. The main question for that was, from my understanding, was should upstream avoided emissions impacts that occur during feedstock preparation or fuel production steps be recognized in the Clean Heat Standard Program's life cycle analysis of eligible biofuels. So we're starting, I think, long story short, the TAG is starting to get into some weedy questions around biomass and biofuels, and starting to answer some questions about how things are defined and what's included and excluded. But I know, Ben, you're listening into a lot of the TAG meetings, and other department members are as well, if you wanted to add anything.
Nothing to add. I think, yeah, I think you covered it good. It's gets pretty detailed pretty quickly, but yeah, nothing to add.
Thanks. That's helpful. Matt, Emily, oh yeah, I'll let Peg go first.
Yeah, I think one thing that comes out of what's going on in TAG that the EAG may want to weigh in on, because a lot of these things are pretty technical, and some of us think that a lot of the science is lost in the technicalities, that I think we need to encourage the TAG to draft clear documentation so that all final decisions that go into the TRM are transparent, verifiable, open for public review, as the rubric suggests.
Matt, Emily, is there anything you want to follow up with that?
No.
Okay. And I think it would be helpful for the group, for either of you, just to give us a short summary of, like, we've got about a month and a half left until the end of the year, I guess 2 months before, the session-ish. Can you give sort of an update on what remaining tasks the TAG has left to do? And I guess deadlines for doing those things would be helpful, just so I feel like I've lost the thread a little bit.
I can start, I guess. The TAG has a, I believe you can any member of the public can access it on TAG meeting materials or on the Clean Heat Standard website, but I can double check on the website what's included. But the TAG does have like a schedule that's kind of like, these are the things that we need to discuss. I don't know, like, we kind of are just doing things, I think, meeting by meeting. So I don't, on the top of my head, have the whole rest of the schedule for the TAG's duties. But if it is, I can send an email, a follow-up with that, or I can just link to it shortly after this in the chat. So yeah, I would just recommend checking out the schedule. But Matt, if you have more on the top of your head to share, go for it.
Well, I just to remind, not to remind, but to reinforce what everyone's thinks the technical advisory group does, which is figuring out how we characterize clean heat measures, and then how to translate a clean heat measure in its ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to figure out how to assign a credit value so that it becomes a tradable asset on a market created by the Public Utility Commission. And so there's going to be a lot of discussion on Thursday, I'm pretty sure. Pike probably could reinforce it, but how are we going to define advanced wood heat? Do we include all pellet stoves? Do we include chips as well? Do we include cordwood? Do we include cordwood under a certain criteria? All of these have not been decided by the TAG, but they will be likely on Thursday. When I say decided, there'll be a vote, there'll be a recommendation that the PUC can consider, just like they're going to consider what we write as well at the EAG. But also public health considerations with any of these clean heat measures will also has been reviewed and will continue to be reviewed. And then figuring out how we create a credit characteristic for each clean heat measure. And then translating those carbon intensity values to credit values. And then also determining which credit measures actually lower energy costs, because that's part of the charge of the Public Utility Commission and thereby the recommendation from the technical advisory group. There are lots of measures that certainly reduce greenhouse gas emissions when you're replacing fossil fuels, but not all lower energy burden. And so that's part of that examination that will be discussed, at least briefly, on Thursday.
I just confirmed that the schedule is on the PUC website, and a real quick summary of that on top of what Matt shared is that we have the second draft of the TRM. It looks like on the 14th, so tomorrow. The TAG will be discussing PUC order on program emission reduction trajectory and obligated party credit assignments on November 21st. December 12th, wrap up loose ends, report on cost impacts on per unit fuel prices, and then we're expecting the final TRM later in December. So that's, I think, like as of now, what I see is the updated rough TAG schedule. But I can put the link in the chat if folks want to look as well.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. No, I think that's just helpful for understanding how our work lines up with there, and sort of, I see it as the TAG, the EAG, and the PUC will kind of all arrive at the same point. And I don't know that we're going to have a ton of chance to sort of see what is coming out through those three streams, but it is helpful to understand sort of your timeline as well as what's going on in the EAG. So I think that's helpful. Okay, are there any other questions? Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, before we move on, I just wanted to follow up with Pike on your point about the transparency and the decisions that the TAG is making. Is there any type of follow-up that you want the EAG to do on that
Not
note?
at this point,
Okay.
the TAG may be onto this all by themselves, so I don't think there's need to suggest that. But I think the TAG, for those folks who are on the TAG and listening, could benefit from actually using the equity advisory rubric that we developed for some sticky issues such as biofuels and wood, cordwood, wood chips, etc. That would, I think, help resolve some of these issues when you actually incorporate health impacts, shifting cost impacts based on health, etc., for some of these issues. But no, I don't think there's anything we need to do at the EAG right now.
Great. Just wanted to clarify. Thanks, Pike.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Okay, are there any other questions about TAG business? Okay, if not, I will turn that over to Dominic for PUC updates.
Great, thank you. Only two updates from the PUC today. The first is a response from the commission about that Jen resigned from the TAG, given that she took a new job. We put a memo in front of the commission last week explaining the situation, including Jeff's suggestions for possible alternatives. After discussion at the commission meeting, the commission decided not to replace Jen at this time. Given the amount of time we have left and the process that we would have to go through about publicly announcing and soliciting feedback or potential applicants, in addition to the names that already floated, and given the about 2 months left, they decided not to go forward with that. So from here on out, we will be continuing with 9 members of the EAG. That means the quorum drops to 5 people, so that should make achieving quorum a little bit easier. If the EAG feels strongly that the commission should in fact appoint someone, as what happened to TAG last year, or earlier this year rather, the commission would hear more feedback. But for the time being, with the information we currently have, the commission does not want to replace John, the EAG. The second thing that I wanted to bring up was early action credits. The commission considered a staff proposal last week. It was approved at the end of last week, and so we expect that to be issued shortly. This order will cover ownership and registration for early action credits, and talk about how that might be incorporated into a program that goes into effect. So we are hoping that goes up on EPUC today. Not today, it should be up by Thursday. Any questions on any of those?
Okay, hearing none, I am going to pass it back to Ashira for a discussion about public meeting feedback.
Thanks. And so we were hoping that everyone would be able to take a look at the public meeting transcript from October 30th. And we just wanted to give some time to make sure that we could go over some of the feedback that was heard in that public meeting. If there are any overarching themes that you found, just so that we can be aware of them when we're looking at the final report. So that is my opening. Were most people able to do a quick scan through of that transcript? I see some nodding heads.
This is for the rules, the meeting on the rules, draft rules.
Yes, the one on October 30th.
If not, I wrote a summary of it that's just a list of main themes in the public engagement section of our report that we can just copy and paste into the chat if folks need like a quick.
I'd be happy to do
list.
that. That's great.
Thanks, Ashira.
Sure. Is the video is posted, right? No, it's not.
I don't think it was recorded. I think there's only a transcript.
Right.
Yeah, I went through the transcript, but I didn't know if there was a video associated with it.
Yeah, to my understanding, it was just the transcript.
Yes, I think that's correct. It is a stenographer transcript, so it really does say exactly what people said down to the ums, but it's you can't listen to it.
I don't know if they corrected certain things, but the Greek model is the Greek model, etc. There's some things that should be corrected in there.
So are you looking for like, what do you, I was on the call, I didn't comment, but I did email a comment as a, not as my job, but as a person in Vermont. Are you looking for just themes we heard or read, or what do you want to hear from us?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mia.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suggested we put this on the agenda. Part of our job is to take into account public feedback, and I think that's been difficult because it's been sort of dispersed. This is one opportunity that we've had to sort of see public feedback sort of collected. There's also been a lot of activity in the public comments on the docket. I think it's worth sort of reflecting on the themes we've heard and like how we want that feedback to show up in the report. I think it's important for us to try to sort of capture that somehow. So I don't know if anyone had any sort of reflections or thoughts on what they heard from people. Yeah, Jeff.
I have a reflection. I was really surprised. The majority of the comments were people opposed to wood and biofuel. Not many people complaining about, sorry, complaining maybe is not the best word, concerned about affordability, which was really disappointing. And hence why I made my comment via email. But I guess it just shows that the public still doesn't know a lot about this. Because I think if they did, there'd be more people there concerned.
Matt, do you want to say something?
Yeah, Jeff, I think it's accurate. I think there was some comments, but it was overwhelmingly anti-wood burning. I also wanted to point out that there was also some sentiments that I think were misguided, that the people on EAG and TAG were just involved in this process in their own self-interest. And I took great offense to that, and I spoke out against that. So I think we're all here for different reasons, and we all come with different prior visions, but I don't think any of us here are slogging through all this because we think there's some payday here. This is not that why we're here. We're here because we have a common vision. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
Right. No.
Well, yeah, I can share kind of what I'm hearing and what I think I'd like the report to say. I think especially I think you're right that there wasn't a lot of talk about affordability in the public meeting, and maybe that just shows that it's hard to get actual members of the public to attend public meetings. We know that's a real challenge to have people take time out of their day to do that. I'd say that I'm seeing a lot of public comments in the PUC public comment function. If you've all had a chance to read it, it was like 2 weeks ago. There was just a lot of comments. I had to set up an email filter to collect them. But I think the comments were really concerned there about affordability. And so, I think in the sort of themes that if we can try to take this together, like I'm hearing concerns about affordability from a lot of people. I'm hearing general interest from not everybody, but many, that they do want to do something about our environment and our climate. Like that is a value. I heard that through the transcript about, I'm concerned about our environment, but I'm also concerned about the clean heat standard. And then I do think there is, we heard pretty vocal feedback about wood heating and, public health dangers. And I think that, those things should probably show up in our report in some way. So I just want to make sure that our report feels responsive to average people. Like there's so much talk about credits and systems, which I think are really important and can help provide good feedback. But I want legislators to be able to read this and get a sense of how we interacted with sort of messages from people who took the time to, speak to the process. So I don't know how that shows up in our final report, but those are themes that I keep hearing back, and I think they need to get in there somehow. Yeah. Sorry. Go on, Michelle.
Yeah, one thing that I think I have not heard anyone opposed to is increased weatherization. And given that with the new makeup of the legislature, this probably is not going to pass, certainly won't survive a governor's vote. This group and maybe other groups, including the PUC and others, should think about really how we can increase, triple, quadruple the amount of weatherization that's occurring in the state.
One of the things I think we can look at maybe when we get closer to the report writing time is Emily has done a great job at kind of outlining the public engagement process. And if we want to find ways to interweave these comments into that section, I think that would be a good place to put it in the report.
Yeah, I did outline all of the comments that I read from the transcript from the public meeting, as well as I read through every public comment through ePUC and added all of those themes to that section. So I think if we want to, I didn't say like all of them individually, but I said like these were the main themes from all of those comments. So yeah, just reiterating what Shira said, if you're looking for a place to look for that.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. And maybe that's where it shows up. I just think, and again, I think this is my fault as much as anybody else's. We've gotten really deep in the policy details and looking at our final report. I do think there's a human connection. We just have to make sure shines through close to the beginning of the report and at a high level that, just hammers it home. It's such a dense report. I just want to make sure that we're really clear about being responsive to the public, kind of somewhere at the top. But we can review that as we get into it, as the chair said.
Yeah. So Mia, one suggestion. I mean, I did review the PUC comments that came through in the last 3 weeks. There were a ton of them. There must have been like close to 100 or so public comments. I just wonder whether, I'm sure PUC has got a process for digesting that and percolating that up to the policy. I just wonder whether we should aggregate any of that, since the rule came out, the specific feedback from the public, whether we should aggregate that and incorporate that collectively in a section, in an overview section, or where it belongs in specifically with respect to low income or middle income, or wherever we see fit. I just wonder whether it's worth doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Emily has done a great job of we're doing it in the sections on the public feedback and the process. I just worry that sort of the farther you get down into the report, the harder it's going to be to pull attention. And I just really just want the legislature to hear those messages. I'm sure they are following this discussion, but to hear these messages and have it just be a high level item in our report. I think we can speak to it in the executive summary, which I haven't drafted yet. I do think it can show up in the, harms and benefits section, which is going to be close to the top. I thought it was just important to sort of get a, touch base on sort of what we're hearing and making sure that we're carrying those themes through the report. Like I said, I think it's really easy to lose that through line when we're dealing with so much content. But I don't know that there's,
Yeah, I was just responding to what Jeff was saying earlier about, there was so much distracted discussion around biofuels and wood burning. He didn't really hear much about affordability. Is there some aspect of affordability context that can be pulled out of the public comments that came out since the rulemaking that we can reinforce or highlight? That's all I was saying.
I mean, certainly if you look at the comments that came via ePUC, I would say I maybe saw one comment in favor. Like, I mean, the overwhelming majority was talking about how this is unaffordable for the average Vermonter. I mean, so that I feel like that was a pretty, like you said, you read them too. I mean, we could definitely draw that through line there, probably.
Yeah.
I think we should probably touch upon it as well. And yeah.
I mean, that's like the basic issue, right? Vermont trying to do this alone. The affordability is the fundamental disconnect with that versus a federal or a national program that pulls on all resources. So.
Okay, well, I want to keep us on schedule, and I see Shira jumping in. So I don't know if there's an action item, but I just wanted to leave space for that. So Shira, if you have any suggestions on how to think about that, or if we should just move on.
Yeah, thanks, Mia. I think that it might, so today's agenda was a little bit flexible because we weren't sure exactly which parts of the report would be done when. I think it might make sense if we have some time today to dive a little bit into the public engagement process section, but a little later on today, and then maybe we can start bringing some of those themes into it. But before we do that, let's see. Before we do that, let's open up for public comment, see if we have any just on public engagement in general, and then we'll do kind of a quick status update on where we are with the different pieces of the report, and then we'll start diving into each of the chunks individually. So So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. If you have a comment, feel free to unmute. Like we always say, we'll give you 2 minutes and then we'll circle back afterwards if you still have more to say. So any public comment? Alrighty. So with that, I'm going to go over to our report section grid. Let me share my screen. Right, should be able to see it. And I was hoping we could just do a quick walkthrough and see where we are. I know that some of the deadlines were pretty tight. So I really appreciate everyone who was able to get it in on time. And otherwise, I know there might have been some pieces going on that I wasn't CC'd on. So I just kind of wanted to check to make sure we knew where we were. So I think we're just going to walk through and look at the dates and see if we need to adjust any of the dates. See if any are already finished, and if you haven't already sent them to me, you can send them over so that I can put it in the big outline. So we could start with the limitations of the Clean Heat Standard Framework. So that would be Mia and Matt.
See, so I sent that to Matt, and I think Matt was just playing catch up on it. So I don't think Matt has had a chance to review the limitations material yet. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I did. Hold on, let me find it here. I haven't sent it back though, because I
Awesome.
wasn't
Okay.
done. Let me find it here. Should have had it all the way up. CHS frameworks limitations. Got it. Yes, so I have made some edits to just real small edits, but I can share that with you. I did stop when we get to benefits and costs. I didn't know what we wanted to do there, Mia, because there's
Ben's been working on that. So yeah, I think I put placeholders in, but there's just like a blank there. So yeah, thanks for taking a look at that, and we'll decide how to move forward either this meeting or next time with that. So thanks for.
I will send you that document now.
Okay, and copy Ashura too, please. Thanks.
I will.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Okay, next is the benefits and costs. Benefits, costs, and recommendations, Ben and Matt.
So I'm still writing that because it is a little bit more substantive. So I wanted to, before passing it on, I wanted to kind of make sure I covered most topics. So I have given myself a kind of a personal deadline of the end of this week, if that's okay.
Yeah.
With the goal of having a more fleshed out, like substantive document. So the way I'm organizing that, just for folks' reference, if I don't know how much we need to go and do it now, but I'm basically doing a section of compiling all the benefits, costs and recommendations sort of in paragraph format, kind of making a cohesive, readable document so that, weaving together, for example, all the various recommendations and trying to delineate them in a way that it's clear, like, we're talking about a benefit maybe to renters or to manufactured homeowners and so on and so forth. But end of the week is my target on that, and I will be sending that to Matt when I'm got it in a good format and ready to be edited.
No worries at all. And Matt, I gave you a deadline of next Monday, if that's okay, so we can have it in time for the next CAG meeting. Okay, thanks. So the equity rubric, that would be Pike and Srini.
Yeah, I have not written that part yet, so Srini has not reviewed that part yet.
How long do you think you might need?
I think I might have time to do it later this week. Maybe after the tag meeting on Thursday.
All right. So do you want So we'll do 11:14, and then Srini will give you until 11:18. All right, I can't see anybody, so I'm going to take the silence as a yes. So the next we have Ben, the EAG's memos to the PUC, Ben and Pike.
And I do apologize. It looks like I forgot to CC you on that one, Ashira. I did send that to Pike, and he got
Awesome.
his edits back to me. I haven't had a chance to dive into those yet, but I will make the changes, and I'll CC you on when I'll loop you into that convo. But yeah, those are done.
Great.
Thanks, Ben, for doing all this. I know we assigned you a lot, so I think we can be flexible on some of that. Yeah.
Cool.
And we received the public engagement process from Emily and Jeff, so thank you so much. The section, what is being asked from us, so cleaning up the Act 18, Matt and Mia. Matt, were you able to get to that?
This is, I'm sorry, what was the title again? I have it here.
So this is the Act 18 summary, and just kind of framing like what is being asked of the EAG.
Yeah, this is the one pager, right? This was
Yeah.
really well done. I didn't really have any edits or additions, but then I thought, what's wrong with me? I should probably have some edits or additions. But as far as a
Yeah,
one pager, it's very clean.
Yeah, I think our intern did a good job drafting it. I thought it would be helpful just to have some extra detail on when I've seen other legislative reports, it's like this group met a bunch of times, like, twice a month
Okay.
for this things and just making sure that this section really covered like what Act 18 says we have to do about equity and sort of what we were looking for in it.
Let me work on that. I will get it to you by 4 o'clock today.
Okay, sounds great.
Sounds great. Great. Pike and Emily, thank you for reviewing the renters. I
haven't
received
reviewed
that.
it yet.
Okay.
But I know that I was in the report writing group for part of that. And I have been working on a paragraph today. But fine if we want to focus on that in today. I know that was like on the agenda for today. So happy to like in live time provide some edits. But yeah, I think this is the one I didn't have capacity for this past week. Sorry
No
about that.
worries at all. No worries at all. Yeah, we may have time to look over it, or we can rearrange,
Okay.
depending.
If we don't, I
Um,
can for sure provide edits by the end of the week. But again, fine to do that in live time as well.
Sounds good. Chris isn't here today, but does anyone know? I didn't receive the manufactured homes section, so
He didn't
Did
send
anyone-
it to me yet, so I
okay.
don't have it. So just a quick question, the second reviewer, are they responsible for the final draft? Or they review it and then send it back to the original person who's responsible to take
They're
the edits?
responsible
and
for the
first
final.
person, the first person is, or the second?
No, the second.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
I see no reason it can't go back to the other person for thoughts and suggestions and conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's fine as long as both people are willing to do that. I mean, I think part of this was about responsibility and making sure that stuff was like done. But, I think if the two assigned people can work that out amongst themselves, that's fine.
All in all, it's still going to go in front of the EAG, so you'll all have a final say on what it says. Yeah. But if you have if the second person has any questions, or if they're a little bit unsure of if this is the way the first person was leaning or anything like that, it's fine to have that back and forth conversation. But just for finality's sake, it's good to just have the second person kind of just be the one in charge of passing it off.
Okay. Well,
But
sorry,
great
Ben.
question.
I'll
Yeah,
probably I'll loop in the first reviewer on mine just to be like, I think like Pike mentioned as the second reviewer, personally, I'll probably finish it off, but it can't hurt to have a little back and forth conversation just to make sure, oh, did you mean this, etc. Yeah. So
Yeah.
As far as I know, all citation styles have the footnote numbers at the end of the sentence, at the end of after the period. So for consistency, both with internally and with APA and MLA and Chicago, et cetera, I think we should have footnotes at the end of the sentence after the period.
That's a fine suggestion. Yeah, I will say footnotes have gotten super weird going in and out of Google Docs and Microsoft. I'd love for people to put citations as you mentioned, Pike. I think once I have the content, I'm going to have to kind of put this all in Word and try to make sure that the citations are internally consistent. So I'll make sure to leave time for myself to clean this up. But yeah, I think just getting the citations there as kind of complete as possible would be a big help. And then with numbering or where the specific citations are, I can do some cleanup. So yeah, I think following Pike's advice to take this as far as you can is great, but they've gotten real bad from all the format shifting. So we'll make it work.
Thanks, Mia. Okay, so moving on to households of color, Mia and Emily. So I saw back and forth on that. I think we have a final on that as well.
I have a quick question. I saw Pike sent in like an updated version of that one, I think, but it didn't include my edits. I think I added a little bit, so I'm curious just about like that.
Yes, I was the broken link on that. I just did not copy everybody. So I did a version with both your suggestions and then Pike's edits, which I think Pike's were mostly like phrasing rather than specific suggestions, but I would definitely welcome cleaning up the language. So I think the version I sent to Ashira today, sorry everybody, was actually the one that included both of your edits. So that's my fault for not closing the loop very well. But I did take those into account. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for clarifying, Emily. And yeah, I took the one that Mia sent and put it in, so that should be the most updated one. Okay, for moderate income households, Emily and John, I received that and put it in. Is there anything that I should know about that?
Nope, not from my end.
Okay. Sounds good. Non-household impact, Srini and Matt. Srini, how's that one going?
I hope I did this. I think I sent a version to you and Maya like last week, I think. The section that I had difficulty incorporating non-household context is the obligated parties. I haven't had a chance to share that or discuss with Matt. So I just realized that I have not included the citations and references, that I have used. So maybe I'll update them and send it to Matt. Yeah. But I did send a draft to you both last week on that. So.
Okay.
Let me make sure. I'm sorry, Srini. I'm not sure I saw it, but let me try to dig that up and make sure Ashira is on it.
Hope it's not sitting in my draft section. So.
No, I do see it. I think you sent it to both of us. Ashira, I'm just going to forward it to you right now. Apologies. I don't think I looked at that. So I am going to forward that to Ashira right now, and we'll get it in the document. Sorry. But yeah, just to close the loop on that as well, that Matt, I'll forward it to Matt as well, so he has a copy, and then Ashira can get that into the document.
Thanks, man.
So,
thanks so much.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. We could have probably done this. It's been hard to move all these pieces together. So yeah. Okay. So Matt has it, Ashira has it, and we'll include that in our review.
Okay. And then Srini, the one that you sent, so that is good to go, and Matt can go ahead and take a look at it.
Yeah, and I'll just revise this week a version with references and stuff, the appropriate references. So.
Okay.
Srini,
And
I did see that you said that you didn't want to include obligated parties in that discussion. Did you, was it in there or is it?
No, it's not in there. It's not in there. So
Okay.
that's why I said, yeah, that's why I flagged it in my summary. Yeah. Yeah.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. So why don't we bookmark that as a way to talk about obligated parties? But I see that's not in there. So Matt will be reviewing sort of the content on small businesses and sort of other non-households, and then we'll have a discussion about how to represent obligated parties in this report somehow. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
okay. And Matt, how long do you think you might need to be able to review that?
How many pages is it?
Srini, do you know about approximately how long it is?
It's 2 pages.
Oh yeah, I can get that done by 4.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. On the recommendation section, Ben, you were on that one as well as Emily.
So that I guess I had a question as to, maybe we already had this discussion, but how's that different from the recommendations from the above section? Was there like a clear
So
delineation?
this was the implementation recommendations. And this
Oh, okay.
was the conversation that we had last week. And we took all the notes in the I think in that demographics the demographics Google Doc that we've been working from.
Yeah, so implementation recommendations, just to be crystal clear, we're talking about, are we talking about recommendations? Yeah, so I guess with the recommendation section up above, we had talked about going by each demographic, talking about various recommendations for each segment there, but are we talking about basically recommendations overall that, okay, if this is going to pass, as an example, we'd want to increase funding for low-income weatherization, or increase funding for various programs that might help these those kind of recommendations, basically like stuff that is outside of CHS that might need supplemental funding, that kind of thing.
I think this was more like when we were talking about if there may be a need to have like an ombuds person, or like what would the logistical pieces actually look like to make sure that when it's being implemented, that it's still there's an equitable framework. So like what does the EAG look like after this? Does the EAG continue on? Those kinds of things.
Understood. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've been kind of deep in the other section. So what I was just talking about, that'll be recommendations. That's what you'll see in the recommendation section from, above there. For this, yeah, I can, yep, understood. That is not completed yet, but I've got a good chunk of time the next few days that I'll be working pretty much on this. So how about this? I guess I will loop in you and Emily at the end of the week and just kind of give you a status update on that one.
Sounds good.
So
yeah, why don't you copy me as well? And yeah, I think this is just part of the complexity. We've got a lot of parts of the report that connect to other reports, and I think we'll just have to do our best with the sections and then read it through as a final copy and see where it's repetitive or where there are gaps, and is it going to make sense to a reader that they hit the highlights first and stuff. So we'll see. I appreciate your being willing to kind of muddle through this, Ben, and kind of guess where some of this material should be.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's because I just want to make sure there's no overlap. So I think that's why I just wanted to clarify there. And I see that I'm next as well on the households not readily available to access Clean Eat Standard. I did send a copy of that to Chris.
Okay.
That was a few pages long, I guess. Yeah, I was hoping Chris would be here today just because I wanted to see how, if I was kind of on track with that. So there's kind of a lot to be said there. I thought I covered it broadly pretty well, but yeah, I guess we'll see what Chris says.
I'll touch base with Chris, and I can take a look at it myself as well, just to make sure that can move along.
Yeah, I'll resend I don't think I CC'd you, Ashira, on that either, so I'll kind of send it back out and CC you guys on it so you can take a look.
That would be great.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Awesome. And then finally, we have low-income households, Jeff and Ben.
Yeah, I sent it to Ben. Ben, happy to get it back to do more if you don't have all the time in the world, which it sounds like you don't. You're busy with others. So keep that in mind if you want me to do more and pretty it up or whatever when you're done.
Okay.
Just let me know.
Yeah, that's on my to-do list to review that section kind of first thing in the morning tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah, if you don't hear from me by like the end of the day tomorrow, then maybe reach out. But the plan is to have that get back to you tomorrow on that. So
Okay.
yep.
Great. Well, thank you everyone on that. That's really helpful. I know that this is a lot of time that you're all devoting to this, and yeah, just really grateful for all the work that you've been putting in. Yeah, before I move away from this, do we have any other questions about the way that this is coming together, the different assignments, anything like that?
So yeah, the section on low income, there were multiple sections. I think it was attached. I think you started it, but there's pieces I think that Matt wrote. So I was really concentrating on the weatherization piece of it in the LIHEAP a bit, but did review the whole thing, but just wanted to put out there most notably on the weatherization piece of all of those. So I don't know why I'm saying that, but other than yeah, just trying to clarify what I did. So
Sounds good.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so for the next steps, so today what we thought we could do is we wanted to see what the process would look like to be able to approve maybe one or two of these sections and read it through as an EAG and go ahead and take a vote on it. And this is going to be our first time kind of like going through a section all together and you know, saying yes to it, to being in a report. So it may take some trial and error, and we definitely welcome any suggestions on how to make this process go by in the best way that it can. But it looks like we have a few sections that are complete. So we have the memos to the PUC, public engagement process, households of color, and moderate income. So if you give me a second, I am going to go ahead and make a quick poll and we can just vote on which ones we want to start on. And then we can start there. What I was thinking is to do it kind of like the way a lot of Amazon does their meetings, which is just giving us about 10-20 minutes to just read through the sections and go in and put any comments and suggestions that we want to put directly into the document, and then go through and be very kind of deliberative in how we are moving forward with each of the lines of text. And hopefully by the end of that, we'll have a section that we're ready to send off. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
yeah.
Great. Alrighty. So give me 1 second and I'll get all of these into a poll.
Thanks, Ashira. And I think I would just emphasize while you're doing that like this won't be the final time. We will be able to you know, vote on a final report. I just think we should keep in mind like we're not going to have a lot more sessions to sort of individually address specific sections. So I just think we'll just need to balance that. Of course, if people have objections or concerns about something, we should definitely fix those, but kind of balancing how we're going to approve this document as a whole.
Okay. Okay, so you should be able to see the poll now. Go ahead on it and vote on the one that you are most interested in working on right now. Okay. And poll. So it looks like it was split between memos to the PUC and households of color. So households of color has the most, so we'll go ahead and work on that one first. I will share with you where I've been compiling all of the sections that I've been CC'd on. And let's see, let's share again. Okay, if we scroll down, we have the households of color right here. So Vermonters of color, Indigenous Vermonters, and New Americans. So that is, okay, it doesn't show me the page number, but if you're able to see my little icon and click on my icon, it'll take you directly to where I am. So if everybody could go ahead and open this link, I put it in the chat, and open it in your own computer. Give you a few seconds to do that. Okay. And once you have it open, if you could go ahead and go towards the top, and so the top right-hand side, the second toolbar, and switch from editing mode to suggesting mode. And then we'll go ahead and take about the next 10 minutes, and then I'll check in with everybody just to thoroughly read through this and make note of any wording you might want to change, any questions that you have, and then we'll come back together and work through those. So I'll give you until 1:40, and then I'll check in to see where we are.
Ashira, do we make suggestions in the document now, or just like keep note of it to recommend it verbally?
Thanks. Make suggestions in the document now.
Okay.
Thanks, Emily. Really try to use this time to review this section so that we can make sure that everybody is on the same page when we have the discussion. Just a reminder to make sure that you're suggesting and not directly editing. So to do that, you can just go to the right-hand upper corner and switch from editing to suggesting. It looks like most people may be almost done. We'll give you a few more minutes and then come back together. Okay. Let's get started. So first I see just a couple small edits. So does anyone, so it looks like, yeah, this was just a space being removed, a footnote being shifted. Ben, do you want to speak on the suggestion that you made?
Just to call it out, call it what it is. You know, saying
Yeah.
lending discrimination is good, but you know, it's a racist policy. So I think we just need to call that out. You know, in no uncertain terms, because it's what it is.
All right. Any thoughts about that? Everyone good with that?
Yeah, I think a has should be made have, HAV, since we're talking about a plural policies.
And so that is have.
There, yep. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, I was looking at the next one, but I can fix it myself.
Oh, this one.
You're saying the second sentence.
And
Yeah.
also, okay, yep.
I think we should keep Americans of color have faced decades because it's not clear that that's not happening anymore. I think the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Any other thoughts? Okay, we'll go ahead and accept that. And any thoughts about the footnote, Pike?
Yeah, I didn't change
Was it
each
just on
individual.
the-
I didn't change each individual footnote because it sounds like Mia will take care of that. But yeah, all those should be at the end of the sentence and after the period.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I
Yeah,
could-
and I'll keep an eye out for that in the final draft, but there doesn't seem much point to try to fix it because it'll get messed up again after we put it out of Google.
And here it looks like we have a grammatical switching is discussed as. Does anyone want to speak on that?
Yeah, there was, like, as discussed, had 2 dashes on either side, and I think just for more formal writing, being nitpicky, I did 2 commas.
Gotcha.
And as discussed, had 2 extra spaces, so I just deleted the extra space.
All right.
I included a
So
comment
does this
there.
need a comma now?
There should be a comma after clean heat standard.
Mhm.
And then a comma after, I think if you accept the track changes, there should be an added comma after report and the dash should be deleted.
There we go.
I don't know what the title of that chapter is, but I think we should, rather than say discuss later in the report, be a little more specific and say later in the report in chapter, whatever, or just later in chapter.
I don't know that we'll have actual chapters. Should we say section on? I mean, we could give it chapters. I don't.
Yeah,
know
just
if we can
so that
chapter.
readers can be referred to the actual section that we mentioned. Discuss later in report is great, but hey, let's cite the actual section that they're discussing it so that they can refer to.
Right.
I think as
And so-
discussed in the low and moderate income sections of this report.
Perfect. And I was actually looking at the sentence above there. Before housing, Vermonters household under clean heat standard as discussed in later in the report.
I am editing it right now.
Okay, perfect.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Okay. So not this.
No, it was the paragraph before, I think, but I changed it if you wanted to just review and add accept track changes.
All right. And then the second one, is there a specific section that you want to refer to? Like, I believe this is your edit.
It's my edit, but I don't know which section this is specifically referring to, so I kind of left it vague, but I think we should refer to the specific section. I just don't know what chapter or section that will be.
So it seems like it would just be the renter section. So any
issues which impact renters. Okay, yeah. So we can change it, which is discussed in the renter and landlord section of the report, or
Mhm. Just get rid of this. Okay.
I would ask to remove heavily, because that's a kind of a unscientific, unweighted, just kind of, yeah. Words aren't coming to me, but
Is there another
As a-
word you would want to replace it with, or just?
no.
I mean, is that implying that because there's a larger population of non-white residents that are not homeowners, so it's because they're disproportionately more renters of color, then they would be more heavily impacted than? Is that what that's trying to? I mean, I didn't write this, but
I wrote it. I think that's what I was trying to get at. Basically, just saying, demographically, people of color are more likely to be renters. So if you impact renters more, you'll see disproportionate impacts on people of color.
Disproportionate impacts is better than heavily impacted.
Sure, okay.
So, okay. And here we have, so Black, Hispanic, and Native American, and so just Vermont. Does anyone want to speak on this?
Vermonters was just said twice, so I just deleted it after Hispanics, that we just had Vermonters once. And then I believe there needs to be a possessive apostrophe for Vermonters households.
Yes, and
Or we get rid of the ERS apostrophe and just say Vermont households.
Right. Right, I see that, yeah, Pike changed it, so my edit or Pike's, not both.
okay.
One of those.
Any preference from the AG?
Can someone remember to mute if you're not actively speaking? I'm hearing a lot of background noise.
I'm sorry, I think that might also be me.
Oh, sorry, no worries, the sheriff. You can't help it. It's no problem. I just couldn't figure out. No worries. It's not that bad.
I don't mind Vermont households, so you can just take away the apostrophe and the ERS.
Great. Sheena,
I-
you have a comment? Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I didn't edit this because I wasn't sure what to recommend, but under housing, we have Vermonters of color, and color is capitalized. Is the term Vermonters of color fully capitalized, or is it Vermonters because it's like a title of a group, or is it Vermonters of color lowercase? And apologies that I
Yeah,
I'm
I had
not
this
familiar
question
with that.
earlier and looked it up, and Google suggests that it should be capitalized.
Thanks, Pike.
So it should be capitalized everywhere we use it.
Thanks, Pike. Sorry to interrupt, Bashira.
No worries at all. Very important. Yeah, and Srini, so you suggested replacing new Americans with immigrants.
Yeah, I mean, Americans, I mean, I'm not sure it's got a specific meaning of you're an American as a US citizen. I think the intent is immigrants here, I think, with limited foreign-born immigrants and children.
I think for that one, when Jen originally drafted this, she had suggested that new Americans, based on advice from the people she's talked to at CVOEO. I think just like Vermonters of color, it's used kind of all over in the literature. And I tried to be specific in the data, talking about like what this means. Like we have some data on what foreign-born Vermonters are and their demographics and stuff. I realize it is kind of imprecise. I think new Americans is being used more commonly, but again, I do think it is imprecise in terms of what that means. So I don't know that I have a great suggestion, but that was what Jen had sort of thought based on, I think, her conversations with her colleagues. So just throwing that out there, but recognize, Srini, that it's not super specific. So
yeah, okay.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I've not seen that before, so thank you. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I would also add, Mia, I'm not sure where you made the explanation, but new Americans might not also include people who are in the United States and don't have any status or anything like that. So there may be I see Srini's point where you might want to be a little bit more specific with the language.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about that in terms of like, what do we mean in this section? I mean, I think the idea was that people who are new Americans would have language barrier, or could have language barriers, I should say, and could have sort of cultural exclusion, like, not being well integrated into the services and systems that are sort of providing people information about ways to access clean heat measures, which I think is sort of the problem with this report. So I think it could show up in different ways. definitely, you know, I didn't think about it, but it is a good point that definitely people who are, you know, not legal citizens probably face additional barriers on top of, you know, language and, you know, cultural barriers that could prevent people from doing it. So I think this is like a few different levels. And I think Ashira is right that we should be specific about what we mean. So let's see, I think maybe we could put a line about, you know, especially people without, again, I'm not sure about the right term, but people without legal citizenship will face sort of additional barriers on top of that. I assume, you know, if you're here, if you're still living in Vermont, you're going to be paying for heat one way or another. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about the best way. I could try to draft some language as to what we mean.
Does the term immigrants capture, and sorry for my ignorance, does the term immigrants capture those that like may not be US citizens yet?
Yes.
It captures both.
Mhm.
So it sounds like new Americans and immigrants, or new Americans and that group seems like what we're trying to say.
I think it's also highlighted when I just looked up a definition. It seems to new Americans often is more inclusive of like children of immigrants too, who may be citizens but may sort of face some of the same language barriers and things like that. So I think it's supposed to be sort of capturing up the challenges that this group could face without necessarily being specific about citizenship or country of origin. I think that's what Jen was maybe trying to start with here, and I kind of tried to run with.
Yeah. To be simple, at the end of the day, we are talking about new residents who don't have language proficiency, right? That's all it is. It's new residents in the country without the language proficiency. That's
Yeah,
what
I think that's one way to put
right?
it. Yeah. I mean, with the caveat that it could be people who are citizens. So I guess you could be born here, and if your family is non-English speaking, I think potentially, again, I don't know how likely that is that person is specifically going to be interacting with Clean Heat Services. But I think Jen was just trying to be inclusive with this. But let me try to think about how we can get this in.
Okay, maybe Mia, if you want to take some time and maybe type up some alternative wording, and we can scroll down and see if there's anything else we can address and come back. So someone, if this is your edit, go ahead and just unmute and let us know what you were thinking here.
That was my edit. I just it was originally having welcoming and safe spaces. And I think just that was a confusing sentence to me. So I added some specificity that just said creating and supporting existing safe spaces for cultural inclusion is important in outreach to all Vermonters. And then we talk about affinity spaces. So fine if we don't want to include that, but I felt like that added a little specificity to what having meant.
Sounds good. Overall thoughts on that?
I love it. Yeah, makes sense.
It.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead and accept changes. And it looks like that's all of the edits. So I would ask everyone to take one okay, there's one more, and this is just yes, a lowercase p for plan. And Pike, you had a question on the word framework, if it was internal or for the clean heat standard. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I just wasn't sure if we're asking that the DDA have an internal DEI plan for their own organization, or if they create a DEI plan for the clean heat standard. And whichever we're asking for, I think it could be more specific, because I was unclear about what we're actually asking for here.
Makes sense. Yeah, would somebody, the person who originally wrote this, want to address that?
Yeah, I wrote this originally, and I don't think there's any edits. So I think this was our memo that we suggested to the PUC about criteria they should use for doing an RFP for the DDA. And I think it was specifically the organization applying should have a DEI framework. So I could try to reword that, but basically that maybe we should say to support these groups, the EAG also encouraged the commission to require that organizations seeking to become a DDA should have a.
Makes sense, yeah.
Well, could I just add, we say have a DEA that they can apply to the clean heat standard, or alternatively have a DDA for their own internal use? Because again, I don't know what that means, just having a DDA, excuse me, a DEI.
Well, we did make this plan. I mean, I think it's common for organizations to have an internal DEI plan that gives a direction for how that organization should grow and set goals in the future. I think
Is that what we're asking for? And if so,
Yeah.
let's just say internal, because
I mean, internal suggests that it's not shared. We could say organizational DEI framework, but I don't think internal. I think internal suggests that that's not something that's public, and they usually are.
I think equivalent organizational framework, when I read that, to me, that says like sometimes organizations have DEI plans and sometimes it's just like titled differently. So like the same sort of thing with just a different title, and it doesn't limit the DDA or an organization seeking to be a DDA to have to create a new thing that's exactly that if it captures the same things.
Yeah, thanks, Emily, for clarifying that. Yeah, I think that was what I meant when I wrote it. And then we also wrote, I think, the same exact thing in the memo to the PUC, just that like it doesn't have to be called DEI plan as long as it sort of talks about specific things that the organization plans to do around DEI.
sure, I had one other comment earlier in the document regarding safe spaces. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Give me 1 second before we go over there.
Sure.
I wanted to make
Sure.
sure that I captured Mia's edit. So you're saying require that DDAs or organizations seeking to become a DDA have a diversity, equity, inclusion plan?
Yeah, maybe we just get rid of that DDAs, maybe require that organizations seeking to become a DDA. And we'd have to add that, yep. Require,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I think that gets to what we advised the PUC a couple months ago, just that, you know, I think the message was that we just wanted to have organizations with a strong capacity for reaching these targeted groups, and that successful ones would have a DEI plan sort of baked into their organizational framework.
Gotcha. Okay. Going back to Pike's point on the safe spaces. Let's see. If you see me scroll past it, let me know. I'm looking
Yeah,
for
I'm
it.
not. Creating and supporting existing safe spaces for cultural inclusion is important in outreach for all Vermonters. And I'm not sure where that is. I'm reading it off the.
I think it's down a little bit, Bashira. I think right in here somewhere.
Oh, here we go. Yep.
Right there, yep.
And while I don't disagree that these are important, I don't see how it's applicable to the clean heat standard right now. So maybe we can explain that these are spaces where information will be provided. I don't know. I don't know why we're mentioning safe spaces here.
I can start with that, and I know Mia has something to say on that. I think that this came out of some recommendations from both Efficiency Vermont and Jen, talking about the importance of affinity spaces in efficiency work, especially working with various Vermonters that may not always be supported in different programs. So affinity spaces, if I guess just that little section that I just highlighted, I think that affinity spaces lead to that plain language format, well-explained concepts. And then also that second sentence, I think, shares that like it creates avenues for Vermonters to share their experiences and concerns. So I think just in terms of like, we can add clarity, Pike, if you need it. But I think that the main relationship between affinity spaces and the clean heat standard is that it sounds like energy efficiency and related programs are really important to this program, and therefore affinity spaces are pretty critical to reaching out to these Vermonters to ensure that they're included in these programs.
Yeah, I think clarity to help me and probably others understand how affinity spaces, our request for affinity spaces is related to the clean heat standard.
I can add, oh, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, I think, I feel like it's fairly clear. I think it's just the idea behind it is, because of the past inequities and, racist policies, it's necessary to create an affinity space to bring these folks up to have a level playing field here, so that, they can maximize their participation in the program. So I think it's key. But I do see what you mean. We probably could be a little more clear about that, but I mean,
I can take a minute to draft up like a connection between affinity spaces and maybe the use in existing programs right now, just in the next minute, if that feels like something others want as well, to just see if that adds clarity.
That would be awesome, Emily. And while you do that, we can go down and look at the one that Mia just drafted.
Yeah, I tried. I wrote that it just says new Americans include recent arrivals to Vermont from other countries as well as their children and family members. I think we could talk about citizenship status being an additional barrier if we want under cultural inclusion or cultural exclusion rather. So maybe I add that, like, trying to think where we put that. Maybe I would say something like residents without legal citizenship may be reluctant to engage with programs that offer clean heat services, maybe in Okay, I'm not sure how well that is on the fly, but basically I was just saying, just adding that, that new Americans obviously are a pretty wide group. You could have a new American who's from Canada or England and certainly understands English fluently and doesn't experience cultural exclusion in the same way. But, certainly just highlighting that a lot of Vermont's new Americans are foreign born, or I guess that doesn't make sense when I say it out loud, but just highlighting that a lot of Vermont's new Americans are non-white, and that, we are highlighting that you can have both cultural exclusion and language exclusion and citizenship exclusion from, making it harder to engage with, ways to access clean heat measures. So that's a lot in one paragraph. I don't know that we need to go into deep detail about it. I guess I don't know if anyone has any thoughts about ways to, whether we need to elaborate on any of this or just the fact that it's mentioned.
I like the language you just added. I think that's kind of calls it out explicitly, which I think is important because these folks are still going to be affected you know, or by the increased fuel costs, or, you know, inequities still happen for this group, even though they may not have legal citizenship. So calling that out specifically is good, I think.
Have we talked about, I'm just thinking about the WAP program, and I imagine since it's tied to a lot of other benefits, it would be pretty challenging for someone without legal citizenship status to access the WAP program.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if we want to get into that in more detail.
I know primary applicants have to provide, you know, social security number, all that stuff. So
Do we want to put that as a separate like point? I don't think we're making a recommendation, but it is kind of it's there, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of tricky territory, I suppose. Because pretty much everything we have existing for low-income Vermonters is pretty sure you would need to be, if you're a primary applicant, would need to be a, you know, have like basically your identity and, you know, have citizenship. I'm quite sure, especially for federally funded programs. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we just leave it and just say that, you know, they're going to have additional challenges accessing it if we're not going to make a suggestion for, you know, sort of upending the existing system in that way. But I think it's good that we highlighted it. Thanks to whoever did point out that there is a question about you know, citizenship status in here. Okay, Ashir, I'll hand it back over to you. I'm not sure if we've covered everything that's in here.
Thanks. No, we can go back to the one that Emily was working on, but I just want to make
Okay.
sure. So go ahead and accept these changes and check to see how everybody feels about this one more time. Feeling good? Okay, so let's go over to Emily's. Emily, do you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, I just added a sentence in the middle of this paragraph under the sentence describing how affinity spaces can lead to accessibility and comfortability for sharing information. And so I added the sentence, for these reasons, affinity spaces allow for increased inclusion in program development and outreach. And then the final sentence I added for clarity is existing and additional programs under the Clean Heat Standard should continue to and begin to support affinity spaces to better reach Vermonters in program outreach. So hopefully that adds clarity to affinity spaces and programs and why that relates to inclusion in the Clean Heat Standard.
Right, does that address what you were pointing out?
So I personally don't see that this is really applicable, but I don't care that much. You know, if folks are fine with it, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I think affinity, oh, go ahead, Ashira.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think affinity spaces from both Jen's program and Efficiency Vermont have been important aspects of program development and outreach. So I would, from my perspective, I would encourage us to keep something on that in the report.
I would as well. From a departmental perspective, I think definitely want to keep that in there.
So does this say we're asking the PUC to create and support existing safe spaces?
There's no recommendation like that in there. It's more just highlighting the importance of affinity spaces for program development and outreach in existing programs and why it creates comfortability in receiving and asking for feedback, as well as cultural inclusion and safe places.
Well, I ask because the gerund phrase is creating and supporting existing safe spaces suggests someone should be doing it, but doesn't tell us who should be doing it.
That's typically, so I guess that's not like a recommendation, but that's typically something that like existing programs do, and that I think just flagging it for the commission suggests that there should I think it's up for interpretation. That could look like support, that could look like seeking avenues for financing this. But I think instead of recommending creating and supporting, like my interpretation of that would be to flag for the commission that these activities are important.
I'd also flag that the audience is the legislature officially for this. I think the PUC will be looking at it, and we can certainly say, for this to go well, the PUC has to do a specific thing. But a lot of this is, if you want the clean heat standard to work, you're going to need to address these areas where we're seeing targeted groups fall short. And I think that's appropriate there.
Well, if we think the legislature should create and support existing safe spaces, let's say so.
I don't think the legislature should be creating those safe spaces. I think it's existing programs and those affinity spaces are important. So we don't really say who, we just say creating and supporting affinity spaces is important. So I don't think that we should recommend that the legislature, I think, like have action here. I think just flagging the importance of this and recommendations is fine for me. But if others agree with Pike, that's totally fine.
We do say at the bottom that the services, and I think we're missing a S, but the services offered by the DDA should kind of take this all into account and be, accompanied with translation materials and outreach. So I think we're kind of mapping out best practices for all services in Vermont, and then highlighting that the DDA is going to have a special role in sort of doing this work. But, I think supporting it at the WABs and at Efficiency Vermont and sort of where it's happening is also, I think we want to be non-exclusive with this.
Okay. So I'm hearing overall, I'm not hearing much additional objection of having the existing and additional programs under the Clean Heat Standard be a little bit more vague, just pointing towards the programs that are already existing and not a specific group. Is there any other concern on that piece? Okay. So I think I'm going to go ahead and accept the changes on that. And I ask that everybody take one last look through this section and see if there's anything else, because we're coming close to a vote. So see if there's anything else that if this specific piece did not change, I would not be able to vote this forward and include this in the final report. So go ahead and take a couple of moments just to scan through and see if there's anything else like that you find.
For me, there's just one other piece, and that's for the whole report in its entirety. Having the recommendations in the blocks pulled out and into the blocks is fine, but I would also like to see just a list of recommendations, because scrolling back and forth looking for recommendations, I think, is a hassle. I'd like to see them all in one spot.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that's what Ben is working on.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we'll have to reconcile I think there's a real tension between, it helps to understand why we made specific reports. So I do think it makes sense to have them in content. I totally agree with you, Pike, that the farther we get into the report, the less likely people are going to actually pick stuff out. I think we're going to have to see what Ben drafts and figure out if there's a way to do it. We could add more recommendations as an appendix or something. I just don't know if the legislature will understand sort of why we recommended something, absent text. When we talk about stuff like window unit heater, heat pump heaters and stuff in the renter's report, we have an explanation. So I think we should see how it goes, but I think we should definitely circle back to your point and make sure that we're hitting the high points up top and it's clear what we're asking the legislature to do. So I take your point. I think we should see how it goes in Ben's section and how comfortable we feel with what it looks like on the end of it. But there's not going to be a great way to perfectly resolve ease of reading with context, and I think we're gonna have to see.
I mean, I'll just throw out there because I've been thinking about how to structure it for readability, but it seems like it may be like, thinking title, like summary of recommendations by demographic, and then have each demographic broken out with recommendations below, for example. This is separate from the recommendations for implementation. This would be in the benefits, costs, and recommendations section. So just throwing it out there. I don't know if folks had any initial thoughts, because I will be formatting that over the next couple of days. But so if anybody had something that they'd like to see.
I might put a quick pause on that so that we can just wrap up with this section, and then we can kind of talk about the rest of the sections. So for this specific section, with the Vermonters of color, Indigenous Vermonters and New Americans, are there any other pieces that people would want to see or amend before making a vote to include the section as is in the report? And I say as is, that we will still have time to make final edits to make it in the right format and everything like that. But as the content is here and the wording is here, are there any amendments that people would like to make or additions? I'm not hearing any. And I quickly want to open to public comment as well to see if we have any members of the public who would like to make a comment on this section. So as always, 2 minutes. Any public comment? I'm not hearing any. Do we feel ready to make a vote on this? I see some head nods. All right, so I'll turn it over to you if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'll motion to approve this section as written.
I'll second it.
All right, everyone in favor of approving this section as written to be included in the final report, please raise your hand. All right, so I see 4 hands. Anyone against? Okay, if you could put your hands back down. Anyone against approving it? All right, and anyone abstaining? All right, I see 1 hand abstaining. And Matt, just checking to see if you're still online with us. Okay, it seems like Matt might not be there, but it looks like the yeas have it. So the section is approved. Great job. That feels good.
It does. Thanks for your work on that, Emily and Mia. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. I think these suggestions definitely made it stronger.
All right. I think we have time to take a look at one more. Let me just double check my agenda real quick. Okay. So I think the second most popular one was the renter section. So we can take a quick. Okay.
I don't think renters was on the poll, was it?
Was it not?
I don't think it was because
No, it was not.
Yeah.
Okay, let me check the poll. It was the memos to the PUC.
Wait, Did we have that one?
I think Ben said that he sent it.
I sent it to
Um,
Pike. Yeah, I don't know if folks had a chance to review it, other than Pike, but
We can include it if it's ready. I didn't know if Pike wanted to do his review or we should pick a different section.
I
I think you did
reviewed
already,
it
right?
and sent it back to Ben. I probably should have sent it to you, Mia, and Ashira, but wasn't thinking.
no worries.
No, no worries.
Pike?
I'm just confirming that we have it in here.
So, Ben, did you send it to Ashira? Did they have the most recent copy?
No, I don't think so. Let me do that right now.
So if you're able to just go ahead and put it directly into the working document, that would be the easiest way. So I think we have, let's see, do we have a section set aside? I think if you put it right after the public engagement piece, so that would be right here. Right before credit ownership.
I'm going is it towards the bottom? Sorry, I've got a lot of screens open.
No worries. I've highlighted it. So if you see my if you can see my little picture, if you just click on the picture of me, it'll take you to where I
Okay,
am.
cool.
There you go.
All right. So drop it in right here.
Mhm.
Like,
There we go. Perfect. So we can give everyone same thing. Let's take about 7 minutes to read through it and put any edits, comments, or questions directly in the memo or in the document. We may not be able to get through the whole thing, but we can get some good work done in the time that we have.
just to know, it looks like, yeah, I had it in past tense, like the EAG agreed, and then I think Pike suggested that we said agrees, so which makes sense to me. So that's what is going on in the edits, just
Okay.
so you know.
I can go through and kind of correct those.
Okay.
So let's read until 2:30 and then we'll try. It looks like we're still working through, so I'll give another 5 minutes. We'll come back at 2:35. Hey, are you feeling ready to get started, or do you need a couple more minutes?
I haven't finished, but fine, if we need to move forward, I can try and read as we go.
I'm sure you're not the only one. Let's give about 2 more minutes. So, 2:37, and then we'll just get started at the top. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So starting at the very top, the person who added the EAG wrote and filed a memo, just that introductory sentence. Do you want to quickly talk about that?
Yep, just added the introductory sentence. I think looking down, they tend to follow that introductory sentence of like, on this date, this is the memo that was filed on this topic. So just added that for clarity.
Awesome, thanks. Any objections to accepting that? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and accept.
And I did the same introductory type of sentence for the second memo.
Alrighty, any objections? Okay.
I have a question. Just I realized in the previous one, should we say commission or PUC? I think it's going to be a headache, but we've not really been super consistent how we're calling things in general.
I think it's both is fine as long as the PUC is fine with that. In the beginning of filings, I typically write the Public Utilities Commission, and then in parentheses in the beginning of a document, I'll write PUC or commission, so that you can use them interchangeably, but fine if folks want to choose one.
I don't feel that strongly. I could make sure that in whatever version of the report we file, that this is like clearly stated at the beginning of somewhere that we're going to be using both. So I can try to find a place. I can make sure it gets in there that we're going to be using a few different things.
I think that would
I'll
be
just chime in. I'll just chime in to say that what Emily does, the Public Utility Commission, PUC, or commission is perfect practice. The commission has a slight preference for being called commission, but not anything that needs to be incorporated in editing.
Thanks, Dominic.
Okay, so let's try to use commission when we can, but not make a big thing of it. And we'll just say it could be both. I think we can also say Clean Heat Standard or CHS, and we'll try to get all the acronyms in there early. I'm sure people will understand.
All right, I'm gonna skip past some of these minor pieces and then go to this this text on minimizing administrative burden. With the person who wrote that, want to walk us through it?
Yeah, so I read Jeff's comment just saying that it sounded like Jeff just wanted this to be more clearly outlined that, so I just added a couple sentences to clarify that there's like existing administrative burden for low-income weatherization programs, and therefore any additional burden would really affect the program's ability to do their important work. But yeah, really looking to, I think, Jeff to read that and make sure it adds clarity and communicates what you wanted it to say.
Yeah, this is much better. I like it.
Any other thoughts? All right, I'll go ahead and accept those changes. And then the next piece, lower about the commission agreeing on the recommendation in the draft rule. Who wrote that, and would you like to tell us why?
Oh, sorry, that was mine. And I basically just said that it would be helpful to catch them up to speed on, well, this is what they actually decided with our recommendation. So just connecting that. It'd be great to have someone double check if it was actually phrased like that with the whole, I don't have the memo in front of me, so this whole no cost, but I think it gets at the vibe of what they recommended. I just want to make it clear when the commission did agree with something we said or didn't.
Yeah, any thoughts on that? Any objections to adding that?
That's a good note, Mia. I think, are you referring to the language they use in the draft rule? Is that because they say if a measure is implemented at no cost to a participant under a program authorized by the commission, the entity administering the program will be the initial owner of the credit. So it's a little bit wordy, but I think that's what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, I can say initially owned, I guess.
Does that still cover WAP authorized by the commission? Because we're not authorized by the commission.
I think the idea is that they will authorize WAP.
Okay.
I think this was specifically targeted for WAP, but was open to the possibility of something else emerging that did the same thing as WAP. So I think,
Gotcha. Okay.
I think there would be an approval process, but I'm guessing it's not going to be complicated.
Okay.
I guess something to think about with administrative complexity, but there's just not that many programs that do no cost,
Yeah.
programs like this.
Righty. Any objections to adding that in? Okay. So the next piece is explicitly calling out what Act 18 states. Mia, was that you? Yeah.
Yes, let me pull it up. Yep, just trying to get us caught up with like why we did this.
Any objections? Okay. And Jeff, your comment about was this already addressed?
Yeah, that's addressed. I
Okay.
made that comment before that was added and corrected. Yep.
Great.
Or after I saw it, I guess. Yeah, never mind. Delete it.
Okay. No worries. And Emily, I think this is you taking out this piece about front loading obligated party credits.
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay? My headset died, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you.
This is where I finished editing, so I hadn't finished this edit yet, but I thought that it was repetitive to say that the EAG submitted a memo regarding front-loading the credit requirements for low and moderate income households during the initial years of the Clean Heat Standard implementation, and then saying the memo, I took out August 9th because that's just repetitive, emphasizes front-loading obligated party credit requirements for low and moderate income households. And so I don't really think I came to a good place here, but I was trying to get to somewhere where like the memo emphasizes the need for prioritizing low and moderate income households versus like repeating that first part. But it's fine if we want to.
Good edit. Yeah. I didn't realize I wrote that twice. So
Yeah. Do you want to just finish off your thought on that, and then we can come back and accept it.
Yeah, if I could just have a minute on that, that would be great. And this is where my edits stopped, just a heads up.
No worries. Thanks. Mia, I think this is you. So adding in for contractors installing the clean heat measures.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it more clear why it's related here. You know, I think they'll get it, but
Any objections? All right. And this addition, Mia, the commission requires DDA applications to have developed.
yeah, this was just I don't know if I actually phrased this correctly. I wanted to get back to what we talked about in the last section on Vermonters of Color, and we had talked about being more specific. So I was trying to align it with what we actually recommended. So I think I might have meant applicants, which I think Pike pointed out. So I can say, oops, I think I messed it up. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Oh, okay. My cursor just jumped weirdly. I think it should be DDA applicants.
Okay.
Yeah, good catch.
Yep, thanks. And just trying to be more clear about, we just want
Right.
them to come to the table with experience doing this. And then I think our memo, the second part that is my edit was just that I think that the DEI plan talks about equitable, how to, to promote equitable service delivery. And I think we separately said, separate from the DEI thing, that they should have experience with reaching statewide, because that was something we were concerned about in the DDA recommendations, that an organization could come up who did not have the capacity to reach rural areas. Or maybe I should say have the capacity to, instead of plan in place. I can't remember exactly what we said, but
Yeah, we should probably yeah, that's a good.
Plan and capacity.
Yeah.
sure, yeah, that's fine to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess you can have capacity but have no plan, so then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Right.
Okay.
We use the term underserved. I don't know if underinvested is better. I'm just not used to seeing that, but just putting it out there.
I like underserved. That's probably.
I like that too.
All right. And Pike, I see some of your, maybe we'll come back once you're done. I think they're just grammatical.
I just added a grammatical one, and the one I think it was with an edit that just lost a space.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Oops. Now we have 2 2s. I'll do one last read through too before we really prep this. This is just hard to get grammar correct, and spell check will pick up some more of this when we're not in edit mode. So we should fix errors when we see them, but also we'll take a last pass through some of this.
I apologize. I wrote this fairly quickly, so.
No, Ben, this is definitely not a criticism of your work. You really did a great job summarizing this. I don't think we've made huge comments on this. I think it's just adding additional details. So this is really good.
And Ben, on this point, so credits B instead of credits include, was that just grammatical, or was there additional thought in this edit?
Let's see. Credits B. I think I was just talking about this was on the low and moderate income credit serving institutions, I believe. So yeah, just like credits be expanded, or I guess, yeah, credits. I mean, the way it's written right now, credits B, or that was a grammatical thing that was suggested. I think it's saying the same thing, just with less words than what I originally had. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that first credits doesn't even need to be there.
Yeah, the clean heat standard credits.
clean heat standard be expanded to allow credits derived.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense.
We're coming up on time. I just want to be, I don't know if we can, speed through what we have left.
Yeah, I doubt.
If we can't get through it, that's fine. We could pick up on Tuesday next week.
We can try. I wouldn't want to rush it just to be able to.
Sure. I noticed we have 10 minutes left. I see we don't have a lot of the public on, so we're probably okay, but just keeping an eye on where we are. So let's move forward.
All right. Yeah, Emily, go ahead.
I just have a quick recommendation on that section. I think that instead of the definition of low and moderate, I think that what we recommended was not the definition, but the requirement for low and moderate income credits to be expanded.
Yeah, I think yeah.
It was like the statutory requirement for the low and moderate income section. I think it's like that statute requirement.
Yes, I think you're correct. Yeah, that makes more sense.
This just checking in with Pike, this is just grammatical.
Yes.
Great. Okay. And this piece as well, Pike, this is also grammatical.
Correct.
Okay. And this piece, Mia, do you want to talk about it?
I thought that was just highlighting again, like we did not see this recommended in the draft rule, so just sort of a breadcrumb for the legislature to do something if they want to with it, and that we just didn't see it in the draft rule. We could put a more substantive recommendation that the legislature should do something about it. I don't know if there's appetite with this group, but just kind of highlighting that it was a recommendation that didn't ultimately make it in the draft rule. I suppose it could make it in the final rule, but we're not going to know when we submit this report.
Everyone good with that? Awesome. All right. And this piece, Mia?
Yeah, I think that was one thing that I do think is important for the legislature to think about, or someone to think about, and I hope the commission does it in the final rule, but basically just emphasizing that we didn't think it was clear in the draft rule what you were supposed to do with low and moderate income credits in multifamily buildings with varied income levels, and that someone needs to come up with a reasonable definition. Otherwise, it's going to cause a lot of confusion in the marketplace.
I see you had a little conversation with Pike. Pike, did that explain what you were asking?
I see a blinker. Are we talking about where you wrote who makes the investment?
Sorry. This is
the EGA recommends that the commission specify how. Yeah, so I would just maybe suggest that the language that is a summary of the memo maybe be in one font, and the annotations that we're adding now maybe be italicized or in another font. Because I'm just wondering, did the actual memo say this section that you have highlighted now? I don't know. If it did, great, but I don't think it did. So in which case maybe we shouldn't pretend it was in the memo in the first place.
I think it is in the memo, this section on it's not clear how credits. I mean, I think we made a specific suggestion about the following the WAP definition of 25% of credits being low income means the whole building can be low income when you have measures that impact the whole building. So we could put that in here, but I think the gist of our memo was just basically like, hey, this isn't clear. You're going to need to come up with something for this to be workable. And this was what our recommendation was. So I think it's clear. I know, Ben, you were involved in both drafting this. Yeah.
This was our draft rule comments here. So I believe.
Should I put Put that in the wrong section? No.
Wait, didn't we
Yeah,
make
no,
the-
so it could have been in the memo. I don't remember, and I'm not gonna go back and look, but it seems like we're adding things that are, the decisions or the actions the PUC made based on the memos, or, so it just might be helpful to differentiate which is actually the summary of the memo and which is our comments after the fact. That's all. And that might not be applicable. This might all be, the section that Ashira has highlighted now might be part of the memo. That's, again, I don't know. But if it's not, maybe it should be in a different style or format.
I think I'm pretty sure we did have that in, again, this is the comments from the draft rule. We basically, I mean, we didn't say it as succinctly as this, but we were suggesting that there was some ambiguity about how multifamily buildings, like credits would be awarded for multifamily buildings. I mean, I guess the PUC did say that, the income of the renters within a building could be utilized to determine measure group. So, I mean, that's pretty clear. But in terms of like serving an entire building, yeah, I guess I could go back and look at what we exactly wrote, but at the moment I don't have anything really else to say about it. And double check.
Okay. Let's see, let's pause really quickly just to see if there is any public comment, and then we will actually need to wrap up. So checking to see if there's any public comment at this time. Feel free to unmute. Okay, I'm not hearing any, so I'm gonna go ahead and move us to the next steps. And for this section, we're pretty much all the way through. So what I would recommend is if everyone can just go ahead and between now and next week, take one more final look at this. And if you have any comments, just add. Trying to think of the best way to do this without still having access to Google Docs. I think it would just write them out. And then when we come back next week, we can start right at the beginning with this. Look through it, make sure that it's all up to where we want it to be, and then go ahead and approve it. I'm gonna go ahead now and make it view only. Okay. And for next steps, I have, just don't forget that we have another EAG meeting next week. So I guess we should do that now. We wanted to confirm that we were not going to have a report writing meeting next week.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's really busy. I think we are sort of moving ahead with content, and if next meeting is kind of entirely devoted to doing content and people sort of approve stuff, I think we're in decent shape. Just looking ahead really quickly, I think we would probably have time for an EAG writing group on the 4th, if we feel after next meeting that there's sort of an emergency need to kind of push content forward. So I think we could do that and still stay on track. So yeah, I guess I would be fine with that unless the group, I would encourage people to work individually so we don't have to run into that situation. But it seems like we're on a decent track if people kind of keep moving their assignments forward.
So
any objections? All right. Yeah, I see lots of no's. So thanks for that, Mia.
Thanks.
So also please review the meeting minutes from 10/29 for next week. So we'll approve those next week. and make sure that you do your assignments. And that is it. I'll turn it over to Mia.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for all your work on this. And please CC both Ashira and me on stuff just so I can try to keep track of what's going on. We all have copies of it. So when you hand it off, I would recommend just CCing us. Hopefully that's not too annoying on Ashira's inbox, but I think that would help us keep track of where stuff is. So thanks everybody. I will call this meeting to a close and I will see you all next week.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.